Hello, YouTube. I just want to take some time today to talk about if we should be worried about the number one overall draft pick in this last year's draft, Cam Ward. So, recently he played in his second preseason game. And between his two preseason games he's played so far, he hasn't looked very good, especially being compared to Jackson Dart in New York and Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, and how they were able to play a lot longer in their games and yet put up a lot better stats. So, should we be concerned with what he's done so far in two preseason games? And is it right for us to compare him to two other draft picks that were drafted by two different teams and their progress and how far they've been able to progress in the offseason? So, first off, I just want to hurry and say that in his first preseason game, he was 5 of 8 passes for 67 yards. And ultimately, by the end of the game, his head coach said that he's not quite there yet, but he's getting better. I do believe the exact words he said was, he certainly hasn't arrived yet, is what his head coach said. And then, of course, in his second preseason game last night, he went 2 for 7 for 47 yards. He did have an amazing pass to one of his wide receivers, and he did that when he was on the run, so that was pretty cool to see. But also, the offensive line had a lot of penalties, so the situation wasn't quite exactly where it needed to be for him to have a good second preseason game. And again, he only played for a few series. He wasn't out there for a really long time, as compared to like a Shedeur Sanders who got to play for an entire half and didn't have to worry about being benched. So, is it right to compare him to what other teams are doing with their rookie quarterbacks? In my opinion, it's not. So, for Cam Ward, him being drafted number 1 overall means that he went to the worst team in the NFL. So, by and large, he does not have as good a supporting cast as most of the other teams do around the league, especially a team like Cleveland, who's had their head coach for a while now, and they have experienced playoff success with their head coach. The Tennessee Titans have not had that yet with Brian Callahan. So, it's one of those situations where it is indeed a younger team. Coaching staff is still relatively new. They're trying to get their feet under them. Now, one big comparison that I have to make is with Cam Ward, his head coach, did indeed coach Joe Burrow previously when he was the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. He did coach Joe Burrow and help him get to all-pro form. So that is one thing that he does have experience in, is teaching young quarterbacks how to play in the league. So that's the biggest difference. So when you watch him through his first 2 preseason games, one thing that I pick up on the most is just what does he look like? Like, how does he process the field? And when I see him go onto the field, I feel like he does have really good presence when he is on the field. He does look like he's composed and he's just trying to make the best play possible, and he's not running around with a chicken with his head cut off. So that's always a good sign. You don't want your young quarterback looking like he is out of his element. And for Cam Ward, he played a lot of college football, so we do have an opportunity to look back at his film with all of his previous college that he's went to and see what he can do with his arm, what kind of plays he can make. So with all that access to all of his film previously, when it comes to the preseason, we don't need to necessarily see him make amazing throws. It's more of all the small things that he needs to adjust to when it comes to going to the NFL. So I feel like ultimately that is what his head coach wants him to do, his offensive coordinator wants him to do, is just get used to the speed of the game, looking like he's supposed to be there. And ultimately, throughout the regular season, you break the season down into 4 quarters. The first 4 games, and then the next 4, and then next 5, however you break it down. But ultimately, you want to break it down in different quarters and see how your quarterback progresses throughout the entire season, quarter by quarter, and make necessary adjustments. So for these 3 preseason games, I've always looked at it as kind of just a practice period for Cam Ward to kind of see what he can do when he's at 100% speed, and then slow it back down during practice, and then accelerate it for like scrimmages in the next preseason game, and then again slow him down again to see where he's at, just so he can kind of get used to the speed, and then to see if he can't slowly progress into a good starter for the Tennessee Titans. Now, of course, the Titans have been making a change from being a run-heavy offense to a pass-heavy vertically aggressive offense. So there's definitely a lot of growing pains, but ultimately in these preseason games, you don't want to risk anybody getting hurt. So a lot of their starters are indeed sitting on the sidelines. They're playing with a lot of their second and third stringers. So they don't necessarily want him to develop behind their second string offensive line, third string offensive line, third string wide receivers. They want to give him a lot more experience in practice where he's playing, and not necessarily in the preseason games where he can get hurt. Because once week 1 comes along, he's going to be the starter. There's no doubt about it. Once Will Levis went down, they didn't exactly make it a quarterback competition, but they really didn't say Cam Ward was going to be the number one quarterback. But you kind of got the feeling that there was going to be a little bit of competition. But once he went down, there was no doubt he was going to be the starter, as opposed to like Jackson Dart. He has a couple quarterbacks ahead of him that can possibly play throughout the season. So he's kind of got to wait his turn on that. And then, of course, Shadur Sanders has a few quarterbacks ahead of him as well. So for Cam Ward, there is nobody else. He will be the starter this year, and they're going to try to see how well he can do and put him in the best position possible for him to succeed. So I'm not too worried about him playing. I would not be surprised if they didn't play him anymore. They probably will in this third preseason game. But ultimately, I don't really judge it off of how well he plays. It's just how well he appears on the field. When he does make plays, how did he look? Was he calm? Was he composed? So far, he hasn't had any sacks. He hasn't thrown any interceptions. So he's really not pressing. There will be games in the regular season where he will be pressing. We'll be able to see how well he does under pressure. But for right now, it's just, does he understand the offense? Does he know how to read the defenses? How well does he fit into the situation? And that's really what I'm looking for. Is not if he's going to make highlight reels right now, but if he can just look like he's supposed to be there. And that's the biggest thing. Is with any quarterback, especially the number one overall quarterback, you're going to have a lousy team around you. But just how well do you look when you do go onto the field? And can you make the plays when they are there and not really push anything? Because ultimately, they're not going to be in too many games. They're not going to be winning too many games either. So he really just kind of has the chance just to go out there and just really get his rhythm down, really kind of play within the game and see if he can't start building himself up to being more successful in the NFL. And hopefully have a really good rookie season. So I don't feel like it's quite time to worry. After the first 4 regular season games, we might have to start reevaluating him and seeing what he's doing and what he can become. But for right now, I feel like it's just one of those situations where it's like, watch the other quarterbacks that are getting more playing time, but don't necessarily worry about Cam Ward. That's another thing, too, is we have so many other quarterbacks everybody's talking about, mainly Shadur Sanders, that it's kind of easy to forget about Cam Ward. But I do feel like he is progressing at a good pace. And once the first game of the regular season comes along, we'll be able to really see what he can do and then start to critique him. And then we can start worrying after the first 4 games or so and to see if he isn't making those little small steps. But again, really only time will tell. So we'll have to see what happens. So if you like this video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe this video. And please make a comment if you have any opinions about the Cam Ward situation and what he should be doing and what you're expecting of him. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.